Okay, good morning, or afternoon, or evening. Um, Today we are going to look at using the zero product property and factoring to solve quadratic equations. And there'll be a Math Excel assignment that goes along with this. Okay, so first of all, what is the zero product property? So if you take a look at this equation here, when you set an equation equal to zero, if you can get the left side of that same equation also equal to zero, then you've essentially solved the equation. So since I have two terms in this, I can get either term equal to zero. So if I can get that first term equal to zero, then if you multiply zero through, it would give you zero as well. So what number can I plug into that first set of parentheses to give me zero? Well, I could do a -7. If I put a -7 in, that first term is going to give us zero, and then it doesn't matter what the second term is, because zero times anything is going to give us zero. Okay, so therefore that makes that a solution to that equation. And most quadratics have two solutions, so therefore we can use the second set of parentheses to get that second equation. So looking at that, what number would go in there? Well, if we put a 9 in for the second set of parentheses, that would give us 0 as well. So again, it doesn't matter what the first one is, because when you multiply by 0, you get 0. So therefore, that becomes our second solution, that 9 there. Okay. Now, in situations where it's a little bit less evident, we can just use algebra. So for example, what number goes in there to make that term equal to 0? Well, if I can't think of it in my head right away, then I can use algebra. So I would just do 11v plus 5 is equal to 0. And again, I would solve for the v that makes that equal to 0. So setting it equal to 0 is the trick there. So subtract 5, and you'll end up with 11v equals -5, divide by 11, divide by 11. So v would equal -5 over 11. So what that means is if I were to plug this v in here, then that first term would be equal to 0. Okay, so that would be one of our solutions. Now I would do the second thing for the second set of parentheses. 16v minus 18 is equal to 0. And add 18 to both sides. And 6v would be equal to 18, divide by 6, divide by 6, and we get v is equal to 3. Okay, so that's the second solution. I'll put a comma 3 there. So those are the two solutions right there. Okay, so that's called the zero product property. Now we are going to look at factoring quadratic equations in standard form to get a solution using the zero product property. So in other words, we want to factor that to look like it did on the previous page, so we can set it equal to 0. So when quadratic equations are in a very specific form called standard form, when there is no coefficient in front of that first term, I've got allergies. I hope they don't bother me through this video. So again, if there's no coefficient in front of the first term and it's in standard form, there's a very specific type of factoring that we can do to solve that quadratic equation. So what I do is I create a diamond, and I put the third term on top and the middle term on the bottom. And then on the two sides, I think of two numbers that would multiply to give me the top number that I could also add to give me the bottom number. So as I think of my factors of 12, 2 times 6 doesn't add up to 7. But if I do 3 times 4, 3 times 4 multiplies to give us 12, and 3 times 4 would add to give us 7. So that would be that helps me get the factored form of this top equation here. So I got the 3 there, so it'd be x plus 3, and then x plus 4. And again, that's equal to 0, even though I'm running out of room there. So again, my answers are not 3 and 4. My factored form is 3 and 4. So if I were to multiply that x plus 3 times the x plus 4 using FOIL, I would end up back with our original expression. So factoring is just multiplication backwards. So if I factored this, I would get this. I'm sorry, if I multiplied this, I would get this top equation up here. But then factoring is kind of unmultiplying it. So again, that would be equal to that. And I used the wrong term. This should be b. This should be b. But if I multiplied it out, it'd be b squared plus 7b plus 12, just like it was up here. Okay. All right. Let's look at one more similar example to that. So again, this is in that correct standard form where there's no term in front of no coefficient in front of the first term. And it's in standard form, v squared minus 7v plus 10. So I'm going to create that diamond again. And my 10 goes at the top, and then negative 7 goes at the bottom. So again, I want to think of two numbers that would multiply to give me positive 10 and add to give me negative 7. So it's not 10 times 1. That's a factor of 10. So let's try 2 and 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. But 2 plus 5 is not negative 7. But if I made both of these negative, then negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10. And negative 2 plus negative 5 is negative 7. So this factored form of this equation here would be v minus 2 and v minus 5. But again, that's not the solution. It would be v equals 2 using the zero product property because we want to get that term equal to 0. And v equals 5 because we want to get that term equal to 0. And going back to this first problem over here, the solution would not be 3 and 4. It'd be negative 3 because that's what makes this 0, and negative 4 because that's what makes that 0. Okay. All right, let's look at an example where it's not already in standard form. So this is not in standard form. Okay, so remember, standard form starts with the highest exponent and works down to the lowest exponent. So I'm going to move all the terms to the left side to set it equal to 0, so we can use our zero product property again. So I will subtract 8 and add 2c to both sides. So c squared plus 2c minus 8 is equal to 0. So I took both the terms on the right side, added them to the left side. Now I've got it equal to 0, and I can use the zero product property for a solution. And since there's no coefficient in front of that first term, then I can use that diamond method again. So again, the third term, the -8, goes on the top, and that middle term, the 2, goes in the bottom. So again, two numbers that multiply to give us -8 and add to give us 2. I can list out the factors of -8, but I know that 4 times -2 would give us -8, and 4 plus -2 would give us 2. So this can therefore be rewritten as C plus 4 and C minus 2 from our terms over here. And again, that's if I were to multiply this term times this term, I would end up back with our original problem. So this is the factored form, so we can use the zero product property. So the solutions then would be C equals what makes that term equal to 0, -4. What term makes this equal to 0? It would be 2. So -4 and 2. Okay. All right, if you're ready to go, you can go ahead and skip this last one. I'm going to do this one more time just for people who need to see it again. Okay, so again, to get this in standard form, I would add an 11R to both sides. I would add 30 to both sides. So R squared plus 11R and plus 30 is equal to 0. And my pen's starting to run out of batteries on me here. I'm going to try and go quick. Okay, so using that diamond method, we want two numbers that add to give us 30. Multiply to give us 30 and add to give us 11. And that would be 6 and 5. But again, 6, that doesn't make 6 and 5 the solution. When we plug them in, we would get R plus 6, R plus 5. So the solution is not 6 and 5, it would be -6 and -5, because that's what makes these terms equal to 0. Okay, there is a Math Excel assignment for a little bit of practice, and there'll be a little mini quiz that goes along with that. Good luck, and I will see you in class.